All right, welcome to the Fox 5 Live Zone on this Wednesday, September 17th. I'm producer Chris, filling in for Guy Lambert this week, and we've got another jam-packed day. The big story today, that final vote on RFK Stadium deal that could bring the Washington Commanders back to Washington, D.C. We're going to be following that live. Also, Jaden Daniels, we could find out today an update on his status. Remember, he hurt his knee in Thursday's game. Big question mark whether he'll be ready to play this weekend against the Las Vegas Raiders. Also, Cardi B, pregnant, and the father has some local ties. Gaithersburg, Maryland native. We'll talk about that in the Celebrity Dish with the Media Prince. First, though, we got to do what we always do here on the Live Zone, and that is talk a little weather. And Tucker, I'm going to be honest with you, I mean this. Yesterday, you asked me to look at the radar, and I says to myself, you know, that looks like banding to me. But I didn't want to just throw out this term.
Yeah.
And then I'm watching the show this morning, and I hear you talking about this tropical system that is unnamed.
We're going to take a look at this together. But Chris, I have so many questions. Like Cardi B, did she make a nice catch?
I get it, because it's a wide receiver in the NFL. We'll talk about that later.
Yes, let's talk banding features. And what you see is what you get out there. It's a rather dreary day, just like yesterday. Last night we picked up 0.8 of an inch of rain, badly needed across the area.
My lawn is crying out for it.
Your lawn, the trees, you know, we're starting to do a lot of talk around here at Fox 5 about what kind of fall season we're going to have as far as leaf color. And I'll tell you what, they need a lot of water in order to produce some colorful leaves for us. So rain's a good thing. 65 degrees, winds out of north here at 13. That is a chilly combo, very raw out there, and it will continue to be a raw feel for your afternoon hours. Only about 70 for daytime highs. Okay, Chris mentioned the banding. You kind of see it there, especially early. Notice how there's a strip of rain that's off to the north, up towards Hagerstown. This is where you say yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stretching down along 81, and then a secondary band that was just west of 95 there in Colonial Beach. And yeah, so it's all kind of working its way around a center of circulation, which has moved just inland off the Virginia coast there. It's now near Richmond. Yesterday, the system, which is not named by the Hurricane Center, it's not officially a tropical storm, but certainly taking on some characteristics, had a center of circulation. I even had a little eye structure that was trying to form at times yesterday. So whether it's named or not, it will continue to bring us clouds, cool temps, and some rain showers around here for the afternoon hours. I think tomorrow morning we get up with some cloud cover, and then by afternoon we should get some sunshine and a beautiful weekend. Friday, Saturday, spectacular. Almost a little hot Friday, and a more fall-like weekend, but kickoff Commanders style out at Northwest Stadium Sunday afternoon. How about 75 at kickoff, and should generally be nice.
All right, so we have something to look forward to on the 7-day. Let me ask you a quick question, because I'm sure some Fox 5 Live Zone fans might be wondering the exact same thing. Why do we have a little picture of Annie Mae in a car on Monday, which is also the first day of fall, it looks like?
Well, Chris, you have so many wonderful questions. Annie Mae is very high maintenance and asked if I would not put her and recognize her throughout the show. So that's, no, I'm not being serious. The reason Annie Mae is in there is not only is the first day of fall, it happens to be her birthday. And so we're recognizing
we will add it to the calendar.
We're calling it...
Getting a countdown going.
We're calling it Annie Mae Day here at Fox 5.
Annie Mae Day.
Yeah.
I love it. It's also my father-in-law's birthday, so I'll have to remember that as well. So in good company, I guess.
Do you get gifts for your father-in-law? How do you play that?
I usually send him a text message.
Yeah, that's what I do to my
That's what most people.
Family members.
Most people in my phone Rolodex get that. Just a reminder, if you want more Tucker Barnes, you can check him out anytime. Fox 5 Weather on the Go, available on the Fox Local app, which I hope is where you are watching us right now. All right, coming up on 12:05, let's check some of the headlines Fox 5 is working on today. And the big one happening right here in the nation's capital, it's the one Burgundy and Gold fans are keeping a close eye on. We are talking about where the Washington Commanders will play in the future. The former RFK Stadium site, the video you're looking at right now, just a skeleton of steel and concrete. But if the new $3.7 billion stadium deal passes today, groundbreaking would begin next year to bring the glory days of the Commanders back to their home. Council members made a number of changes to the initial terms of the deal: more tax revenue from parking, merchandise and concession sales, subsidies to support affordable housing, and an agreement that some commanders' corporate offices would move to the district as well. The bill passed on first reading 9-3. There will be attempts to introduce more amendments today. Some council members want additional penalties if development promises aren't delivered on time. Now, this time around, the bill can pass with a simple majority vote, so 7 of the 13 council members is all it would take. You're taking a live look right now at the D.C. Council. The council will also vote on the new labor deal with the D.C. Police Department the mayor announced earlier this month. That vote will probably occur first. The mayor sent a letter to the council today urging them to pass the measures. We'll check in live on those votes throughout the afternoon. So that will be the big story. We have live team coverage coming up this afternoon on the DMV zone, Fox 5 at 4, 5, and 6. Tom Fitzgerald, David Kaplan, both working that story this afternoon. In the meantime, though, let's check some of the big political headlines. A lot of action on Capitol Hill yesterday, more today. And for that, we're going to turn to Armen Kurdian, retired U.S. Navy captain and political strategist. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining the Live Zone today.
Good morning. Always happy to be here.
All right, we're going to start off with the D.C. crime bills. We're going to start off close to home. We were watching this yesterday. House Republicans passed 2 bills that are among more than a dozen crime-centered laws being considered by Republicans in the aftermath of President Trump's federal takeover of the D.C. police force. The House approved a measure dubbed the D.C. Crimes Act, which limits the city's ability to make changes to its criminal sentencing laws. The bill also lowers the age minors can be tried as adults in the district. Now, critics argue the bills could backfire, though, leading to repeat criminals and worse long-term outcomes for the city's youth. So, Armen, we'll start off by asking what comes next, and do you think these bills will make it all the way to the president's desk?
I think they're definitely going to make it to the president's desk. The idea that they're going to cause some kind of issues with repeat criminals that's happening right now. So how it could be any worse, I'm not exactly sure. The proof is in the pudding with what Trump has done in the D.C. district. And in a lot of ways, it's interesting that you have the district basically as a crucible to test some of these tougher crime laws and tougher prosecutions of crime that are basically making the citizens of the district a lot safer. And he's going to take that blueprint, he's going to take it out into the rest of the country. A lot of the rest of these bills are going to continue to make it more difficult for lenient judges to basically not prosecute crime or provide more lax sentences, or eliminate things like no cash bail. So I think this is a really good first step. Even Mayor Bowser has said that this has been a very positive step for her city. So I don't know how folks can really argue against it.
What does it mean for home rule, though? And do you imagine that the D.C. Council or the mayor will sort of take action to try to prevent these bills from getting passed any further, making it to the Senate, making it to the president's desk?
It's always possible. I wouldn't put it past the council, but home rule is part of the district's existence as a special entity within the United States. But at the same time, if you fail to lead your city, then the federal government has the right to come in. There are those mechanisms in place. Look at the city of Detroit that went bankrupt, had major serious crime problems, went from a population of 1.5 million down to half of that because of crime issues and other things. So at some point you've got to come in. You got to say you failed your city, you failed the district, you failed the national capital of the most powerful nation in the world, and we need to do something to actually go in and fix it and improve it. You talk to the folks on the streets. You're hearing a lot of positives about how much safer it is in the district. The only people who seem to be complaining are elected folks who happen to be Democrats.
Well, speaking of the Democrats, they have been kind of put in a tough place because any vote against these rules kind of makes it look like they are against making the city safer or for crime. They're voting for crime, as the president has put it. So what do you see being the next course of action for critics of these bills or for proponents of home rule who want to leave the power to make these sort of policing changes or criminal justice changes in the hands of elected leaders here in the district?
That's a terrific question. Democrats, as you say, have put themselves into a hole because of their hatred for Donald Trump. They basically oppose anything that he does. And in doing so, they put themselves on the wrong side of many 70-30, even 80-20 issues. So they would have been much better suited, and it's not too late, to say, well, maybe that idea is not so good, but maybe we can do this to actually improve crime. Maybe we can, at the same time we're doing some of these things, we can increase youth programs and after-school programs, other kinds of mentorship programs that are preventative measures to prevent kids from committing crime in the first place. I think that would be a good thing because it has to be a very holistic effort to reduce crime. It's very important to enforce crime, enforce the laws that are out there and prosecute criminals. But if you can prevent people from becoming criminals in the first place, you can do that. I think that's an opportunity that Democrats have missed, and Republicans in some parts of the country are actually taking advantage of that and putting those kinds of things in place.
Let's look ahead to tomorrow because the mayor, the council chair, and the attorney general are all due on the Hill. They're set to testify in front of the GOP Oversight Committee. What do you expect from that hearing?
Well, I expect some fireworks, as always. I expect a lot of partisan politics in a lot of these hearings. It's really unfortunate. A lot of these televised hearings have just become that. They've been televised for show. And I would say, of all the time that's spent in these things, only 15 to 20% you get some kind of substantive action. And I think that's unfortunate, but that's simply how it actually goes. Is something going to come out of there that's going to be new, that's going to move the ball forward? I really don't think so. These things are basically set up for either the folks who are up there on the dais or the folks who are actually answering questions to get some TV hits and get some talking points and clips and sound bites for their own social media. Rarely does anything ever come out of these that is of any substance. Maybe that's something that we could be looking towards in the future, but I don't expect any major earth-shattering news tomorrow.
All right. Well, I know there have been a lot of accusations that D.C. police officials or city leaders have manipulated those crime stats. That was sort of the basis for the president declaring this crime emergency. Maybe we'll get some details on that tomorrow. Maybe we won't. We'll be covering it right here on Fox 5. Let's move to one of the other major stories we've been following for the last week or so, and that is the murder of Charlie Kirk. The suspect accused of shooting and killing the conservative activist has now been formally charged. We saw him make a brief court appearance via video conference yesterday. Tyler Robinson facing the death penalty if convicted. Yesterday, during that first appearance in a Utah courtroom, prosecutors shared the alleged text messages with Robinson's confession. Those text messages with his roommate they say that he had been having a romantic relationship with. Investigators say they obtained phone records between Robinson and his roommate they describe as a romantic partner. So can you talk to me a little bit about the key takeaways from those text messages and your reaction to putting the death penalty on the table?
Well, I'm not surprised the death penalty is on the table. This is cut and dry domestic terrorism, what actually happened. What affects me more about this is not so much that somebody killed Charlie Kirk, the activist, even though that was terrible, is that somebody killed Charlie Kirk, the husband and the dad. That kind of cuts me to the core. I got a 9-year-old kid of my own. I can't even imagine what that family is going through right now. What's troubling is, he sounds like he expressed his intent to take Charlie Kirk out. He was serious about it, and folks didn't do anything to report that and prevent this from actually happening. But you kind of see this story continue to happen and play out over and over again. Hopefully this will happen less and less, but it's imperative that we put all of the important, all this evidence comes together to show that this was premeditated, this was intentional, that he wanted to take him out for basically political reasons for who Charlie Kirk was. Those are going to be core tenets that are going to go into whether the death penalty is put out for this guy. This is a particularly heinous and public crime, so I think there's a good chance that it's actually done. Now, he might sit on death row for about 20 years, but he very well could be on death row. My hope, once again, is that we stop with this political violence. We stop with this hateful rhetoric, this inflammatory rhetoric of demonizing and trying to do this politics of personal destruction. It's taking our country down a very cancerous and dangerous path. I don't subscribe to it. I don't like it. Most of the people I know don't like it. But social media has made it easy for folks to go out there, be angry, and say these kinds of hateful things, and hide behind an iPhone screen. So as parents and as leaders, we have to be in one voice, no matter what our political ideology says. This has to stop, and if this is the kind of thing you espouse, then you are not part of us.
All right, well, let's kind of segue right into this next one, and we're going to talk kind of about hate speech versus free speech, because earlier this week, Attorney General Pam Bondi said the Justice Department would crack down on hate speech. She was speaking on the Katie Miller podcast on Monday. She said, quote, "There's free speech and then there's hate speech." She also said, "We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech. Anything, and that's across the aisle." Tuesday morning, she posted to X clarifying hate speech that crosses the line into threats of violence is not protected by the First Amendment. So as reports have been flooding in of people fired from their jobs, there has been a lot of debate over where that line is. Where do you kind of see this?
So in private industry, if somebody, applauds the death of an individual, that company has absolutely every right to fire an individual for making those kinds of comments. You don't want somebody like that in the workplace whatsoever. I'm glad the Attorney General clarified her comments because, you can make all kinds of hateful comments online, and as distasteful and despicable as it is, that is protected under the First Amendment. But as you say, when you're trying to incite violence, when you're trying to inflame, to cause actions and cause physical damage to somebody, and these kinds of things, that is not protected. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You can't say things that are intentional to cause harm. And of course, that will be up to a judge to decide when these cases are actually taken to court. There's a lot of horrible things online that I say I wish I didn't see it, but you have to protect that because it's a very slippery slope. If you start saying, well, I'm going to start canceling speech, for example, that British comedian who went back to Great Britain and was arrested for something that he posted online, which frankly these days in the United States would be rather innocuous. But calling for the death of somebody, I think is you're crossing a line there, especially considering what we've seen over the last couple of years. This needs to stop, and perhaps if both Republicans and Democrats on the right and left can come together on this and police not only the other side, but their own side, I think it could be very, very effective in trying to bring the temperature down and restore civility in this country.
This is kind of just a quick follow-up to that, and this will be more kind of your opinion, but do you think it makes investigators' job harder to kind of sift through all of that social media, quote-unquote, hate speech, especially if they're looking for, like, missed warning signs or, like, the sort of information that they would need to know someone was planning something ahead of time?
That's an excellent question. You talk about, say, answer it this way: the pendulum can swing one direction or another. Pre 9/11, the pendulum was one way. Right post 9/11, it was much more strict in terms of what we were tolerant on. There is no clear defining line. There is an area that is fuzzy that continuously changes depending on the mood of the country. Now, it does make it challenging for investigators to find this kind of thing, but it does need to be, honestly, it needs to be reported. It needs to be sifted. But at the same time, once again, the caveat to the caveat is, social media. What's the expectation of social media companies? What's the expectation of them policing themselves? We saw, during COVID, a lot of stuff was censored, which was true, and that was really bad. They led a lot of negative other comments. Police need to die, police are pigs, or inciting violence against police, and that was actually pushed through. So it is very challenging. I think the larger problem is you have to look at where we are as a society, where we are in terms of our morality, our civility, in terms of parents, two-parent households, proper education in our schools. When a lot of those things aren't working right, then you run into the issues that we just talked about, which are very, very challenging to try to try to substantiate or try to get clarity on and granularity on. So you have to look at these kinds of things, and anybody who's trying to incite violence or organized violence, organized protests, agitators that are going in and trying to cause protests or stop traffic or these kinds of things in our country. But at the same time, the one thing, let's go back to what Charlie Kirk says: we have to talk to each other. And talking doesn't just mean posting something angry on X or on Twitter or on Instagram. It means talking to somebody face to face. It means that if you're out there trying to work for a candidate, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, going out and knocking on doors and having civil conversations with your neighbors. I have knocked personally on over 5,000 doors in the last few years, both for myself and for other candidates, and I'll be doing it again for my state Senate race. That is how you communicate, by going to where the people are and having a conversation. You'll be amazed that some people that you think might be way on the other side just want to talk to you and are great to meet you as a person. And when you get to meet to somebody as a person, and you get to see that they're maybe somebody's dad, or they have a job, or maybe you both love the same football team, then everything else seems to, come as second nature. It needs to be secondarily important what their political views are. I think that's what we got to remember, and that's maybe what's been forgotten in this country.
All right, I want to get back to Capitol Hill now and some of the fireworks that we saw yesterday, because tense hearings focused on FBI Director Kash Patel, they actually continue today. You're taking a live look right now as he's testifying in front of the House Oversight Committee. The Senate Judiciary Committee grilled him on a broad range of controversies at the Federal Bureau of Investigation, from budget cuts and layoffs to the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein and Charlie Kirk investigations. The day Kirk was killed, Patel announced a subject was in custody, only to later announce that person had been released. So how do you think the FBI director is handling his role so far, and is the criticism that he's gotten fair?
I think he's handling it very well. I think a lot of times when there is criticism, there might be some substance there. I don't think much of it is warranted. He has done his best to try to rid the FBI of individuals, say, for example, who are looking into the fake Russia collusion hoax into Donald Trump, or the politicization of that, and getting back to fighting crime, fighting investigation, domestic terrorism, drug trafficking, and that kind of thing. Again, it goes back to what I said before about a lot of these hearings are simply there for folks to basically hear themselves talk and go forward. The proof, again, will be in the pudding as to what the success record or what the accomplishments will be for the FBI going forward. Are we getting more drugs off the streets? Are we arresting more domestic or international terrorists which are operating within our borders? If those numbers are moving in the right direction, then he's doing the right job. If they're not, then he's not doing a good job. And I think if that were the case, I think you'd even see some Republicans maybe unhappy with it. There were some Republicans that weren't sure that Kash Patel would be a good FBI director. So far, I think he's availing himself well. He hasn't been perfect, but it takes a while for somebody in that position to learn their job. So more to come on this, more to see on what he's been able to actually go out and do. But prosecuting crime, and investigating crime, and preventing crime and racketeering, that organized crime, that's the FBI's bread and butter. Let's see how he does when we get to the midterms.
All right, Armin Kurdian, retired U.S. Navy captain and political strategist, thank you so much for your insight and taking some time to join us today on the Live Zone.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Have a great day. All right, we have much more Live Zone on the way. In the meantime, though, we're going to get right back to that House Oversight Committee, the FBI director testifying now. Take a listen.
In protecting the homeland, the two most important missions the FBI has, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Good. And I'll say this, there was a lot of bull today. A lot of you-know-what, and I'm not going to say it because I respect the institution so much going on around here. Continue to do the work of the people. You are here for that reason. The administration is here for that reason. It was weaponized and politicized, the FBI, in the past. I hope to God we never, ever see that again. One of the darkest parts of American history. Thank you, Mr. Yes, I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous consent.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York is recognized for UC.
I would like to introduce a CNN article that explains how an alleged top leader of the MS-13 gang was dismissed. His case was dismissed in Brooklyn so that he could be deported back to El Salvador, even though he was charged with murder.
Without objection.
Mr. Chairman, I have some unanimous consent.
The lady from
requests.
Washington is recognized.
I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record an article titled "Justice Department Told Trump in May that his name is among many in the Epstein files."
Without objection.
I have another one that is a July 2025 article by the New York Times entitled "How a Frantic Scouring of the Epstein Files Consumed the Justice Department," stating that DOJ and FBI employees reviewing the Epstein files were instructed to flag any mentions of Trump and other celebrities.
Without objection.
And I have another unanimous consent request to enter into the record an August 2025 article by The Guardian entitled "Ghislaine Maxwell Hinted at Epstein's Ties to Trump Officials Why wasn't she pressed for names, stating that Maxwell told Deputy U.S. Attorney Todd Blanche that some of the, quote, cast of characters around Epstein are in Trump's cabinet?
Without objection. Chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Patel, for coming before us to testify today. I am concerned by your repeated claims that you're not able to disclose anything further about the Epstein investigation files and that there's no evidence of a broader conspiracy or other people who should be charged, because the American people aren't buying that you've been transparent or that there's nothing further to be seen. In your exchange with my colleague, Mr. Roy, you reiterated something that I heard you say yesterday in your Senate testimony, and that is, under your direction, the FBI will always follow the money. Is that right?
The money, did you say? Yes.
Yes, you said you'll follow the money. That's great. And just now you said you welcome the opportunity to investigate new evidence. So there has been significant recent reporting just in the last couple of weeks that after Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, 4 major banks flagged more than $1.5 billion in suspicious transactions connected to him that suggested a massive conspiracy related to his child sex trafficking activities. Director Patel, has the FBI reviewed the $1.5 billion in suspicious bank transactions flagged to the government relating to Epstein and his co-conspirators?
I know the FBI has reviewed numerous SARs. I don't know the totality of that number.
Okay, can you provide us with that number?
I'll get back to you.
Okay. And have you initiated any new investigation of those bank transactions since, say, September 8th, when the new reporting came out?
I'll check with the Treasury Department because they're the lead on that.
Okay, so Director Patel, how many individuals or entities has the FBI interviewed, subpoenaed, or compelled to testify? Can you give us those numbers with respect to these bank transactions?
Not off the top of my head. I'll have to work with Treasury.
Okay. We're concerned, you see, because you say you're going after child predators, but
we are.
Obviously this is how you follow the money, is if you follow the bank transactions that apparently enabled the child sex trafficking. Would you agree?
It's one of the valuable investigative tools is to follow the money.
Okay. Have Jeffrey Epstein's victims have asked us to ask you whether or not you've investigated Epstein's lawyers, the lawyers who facilitated those payments. Have you subpoenaed or questioned any of those lawyers?
So in 2018 and 19, what I recollect is many, if not every one of those lawyers was part of the investigation.
But you weren't there at that time,
I wasn't
right?
there.
Okay. So can you get us the names and the numbers of who was investigated then with respect to those lawyers?
As long as I'm allowed to release it, absolutely.
Okay. Well, if we provide you with subpoenas, I assume you can release it. Is that right?
We have a current subpoena, and we're working with Congress to provide it.
Okay. You've said that the Acosta investigation had an original sin. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
Basically, if you're looking at an actual pedophile ring, what you should not do is limit the time frame in which you're legally able to collect information. So search warrants that Mr. Acosta utilized in 2006 and 2007 leading to the 2008 plea agreement had a very specific narrow window of years, I think 3 or 4 years. And so information pursuant to legal process wasn't collected for 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. It also, subpoenas were not sent out to hundreds of witnesses at the time, hundreds of victims at the time. None of that was done. None of these people were put in grand juries. And so the totality of information from the jump, instead of being this big, was like this. And that, in my opinion, is not how you run an investigation if you're trying to break a sex trafficking ring.
So you're now in charge of the FBI. Why haven't you done that investigation?
Great question, and here's the answer. Simply because I am not able to go back 20 years and collect information that the courts had decided was already subject to search warrants. They have said, this was in the investigation, there's a non-prosecution agreement out of that plea, and when the case was reopened, and this is where it comes into play, when the case was reopened in 2018 and 2019, the search warrants, again, were limited to the conduct of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, whether that's right or wrong, that's a different discussion, but I'm telling you that's the information we
well, I think
reviewed.
that is a different discussion, and I think the discussion we'd like to have today is why you aren't following the money. with respect to the broader conspiracy that it has been reported in the New York Times and elsewhere, and that if you really want to attack the issue, if you wanted to attack the issue, if you wanted to get to the bottom of it, if you wanted to disclose what really was involved in the Epstein files, the Epstein cover-up, that you would be taking very different actions that you are today. I do want to seek unanimous consent to enter into the record the New York Times September 8th, 2025 article, How J.P. Morgan Enabled the Crimes of Jeffrey Epstein.
Objection.
And also an article dated July 17th, 2025 in the Epstein case, Follow the Money.
Objection.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlelady yields back.
Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you much. Pursuant to Clause 2K6 of Rule 11, I move that the committee subpoena the CEOs of 4 banks, J.P. Morgan, that's Jamie Dimon, Bank of New York Mellon, Robin Vince, Bank of America, Brian Moynihan, and Deutsche Bank, Christian Sowing, in order to get the suspicious transaction reports. These 4 banks have flagged to the government $1.5 billion in suspicious transactions related to the sex trafficking crimes and conspiracy of Epstein, Maxwell, and all of their collaborators. And as you know, Mr. Chairman, we got the SARS reports for Hunter Biden totaling around $20 million. And so these $1.5 billion in SARS reports we should get, especially since the director doesn't seem to be forthcoming. And I request that we do this immediately.
I think the director's been very forthcoming. We will hold any motion to subpoena in abeyance until the conclusion of the hearing. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director Patel, for being here. It is quite clear that certain members of this committee, they want their 15 seconds on TV, stamping and coming. Maybe it's for fundraising. Maybe they're struggling in their district. They need a little bump. But they turn a committee into a clown show, and that's what we're seeing. You're being unjustly attacked today. I watched the Senate hearings yesterday. You were attacked there. We know there's an agenda. There's always an agenda. It's the same characters with the same personalities, the same objective, and that is destroy the mega movement. You're being attacked, Director, is because you're effective. You highlighted what you've been doing in D.C. with the president in reducing violent crime. You're very effective. Another individual that was very effective with meaningful debate and dialogue was Charlie Kirk. And they killed him for it. Charlie Kirk was a man of faith. First and foremost, he loved his Lord Jesus. He loved his family. Beautiful wife, beautiful children. Just a remarkable, honorable man that was silenced with this assassin's bullet. I would say if Charlie Kirk lived in the biblical times, he'd have been the 13th disciple. He'd have been the 13th disciple. We have a new committee, if you're not aware, a new select committee regarding January 6th. I'm honored to be on that committee. I'm looking forward to working with other members to expose truth, questioning federal agencies that were involved on January 6th, like the FBI, played a role, but we don't really know, Director, to what extent. We don't know. The January 6th sham committee was not formed by Nancy Pelosi to seek truth. There was nothing about getting to the truth about January 6th. Their sole mission was to damage Donald J. Trump and end his political career. And everybody knows it. That's what the purpose was. You know what's nice, so I kind of get to ask the question, though, how did that work out for you? Donald J. Trump is back in the White House, and America loves him. I spent 30 years in law enforcement, retired sheriff from a large county in the great state of Texas. I have seen, Director, I've seen more enthusiasm and support for law enforcement today because of what you and Donald Trump have done over the last 8 months to protect the American people. The American people couldn't count on their government to protect them. Crime is rampant, and now we have a president and an administration that puts the American people and their safety first. It's interesting, a few minutes ago, a classmate reached out to me and sent me I told him, I said, yes, we got Director Patel in front of our committee today. And Andy Kane wanted me to tell you, he said, quote, tell him we love him. Tell him we love him and all the brave warriors exposing the deep state. Cash, you're a great American, sir. You're a great American. Your work as the director of the FBI is commendable. It's commendable. And I want to thank you, sir. Thank you for your service. Keep up the good fight, brother. Don't let him tear you down. Keep up that good fight. You have it in you. With that, sir, I yield back.
Gentleman, yield to me. Director Patel, there were 26, the gentleman mentioned the select committee, there were 26 confidential human sources at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. 4 entered the Capitol and thereby broke the law. Do you know if those individuals were being paid by the Ray FBI?
So we've provided 600 pages of documents to this committee alone regarding January 6th. That's 600 pages more than any of my predecessors.
Yep.
Generally speaking, confidential human sources are always paid by the FBI. That's how it works. I can't speak to the specifics on each one and how much they make.
And we appreciate it. We've reviewed some of that material, and you've given us a lot of material that we didn't get from Director Ray. That specific question, I think, is important to the American people. Were people who were confidential human sources of the FBI who broke the law, one was recommended for prosecution, my understanding is, by the information we've received from you. Were they actually paid by the very taxpayers who may have got charged with the same offense? I think that's important for us to understand.
I'll get back to you on that.
Thank you. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome, Director Patel. I'm going to focus a little bit on domestic terrorism. We have a graph here, data up to 2021, but as you can tell, domestic terrorism is on the rise. Nation, our citizens under threat. We saw the assassination of Charlie Kirk, 2 assassination attempts on the president, school shooting, Minnesota last month, and closer to home, just a couple of days ago, Huntington Beach, peaceful vigil for Charlie Clark, infiltrated by neo-Nazis who essentially made the local individuals attending that event fear for their safety. All of us know that a lot of these domestic attacks are by lone wolves, but yet they do leave clues, social media or elsewhere. Director Patel, you're it. You're the thin blue line. The FBI, your job to protect our citizens back home from those that would harm us. You have to find the needle in the haystack. Takes a lot of work, a lot of resources. Talking to my local sheriff this morning, who said they're concerned. Federal cuts to local grants that help them do the job. Then, of course, let's not forget about other threats that are coming before us, like high-tech fraud. Local senior recently was talking to me about a text she had gotten, a demand by the IRS to send a payment immediately, or the IRS agents were on their way to arrest this individual. Pretty gutsy stuff by folks probably from Europe, North Korea, Russia, China. People, okay, going after those precious savings our senior citizens rely on. Yet the president's proposing a budget cut of $500 million or more to your organization, the FBI. You've said that that'll essentially equate to about 1,300 less jobs at the FBI. So I'm going to ask you essentially, what is it that we can do to help you do your job? Little concerned. Friday night lights. One of the events I love to do on Friday nights, go to the local high school football game. Sit there at the stadium and you always say, what if? What if? You're the thin blue line. Can you do your job cutting $500 million from your budget?
Thank you, sir. I think we are doing our job, and the distinction is with the budget that we have, we are flexing more resources to the field. California is receiving the largest FBI plus-up of any state in the union due to that plus up. They're not getting a reduction. No state is getting a reduction. Every state is getting a plus up. And so I'm utilizing the money that we have to first plus it up. And the empty vacancies that we have, those haven't been filled in years, under my leadership.
Here's my concern. You're going to do well, you're doing more with less, is what you're saying. Yet, we're about to vote on a budget that has $88 million more to protect members of Congress, the executive branch, and the Supreme Court. There's a contradiction here. Back on Main Street, we're saying you can do more with less, you can protect them with less money, yet here in Washington, we're saying we need more money to protect members of Congress. It's a little contradiction here. Or maybe, sir, you ought to talk to leadership about coming in with your management style to protect the Supreme Court, Congress, and the administration. Otherwise, it's essentially a hypocritical situation. We need more protection, yet folks on Main Street can do with less.
My concern is folks on Main Street. We also were, I think we received over $300 million in the big, beautiful bill, and we're also receiving pots of money from our interagency, so this sort of $500 million cut isn't entirely accurate.
You're still getting cut $200 million plus. You're still moving your agents to do ICE work, so you are leaving a lot of bases uncovered. And I'm not going to be argumentative with you, Director Patel. I'm just saying, if that thin blue line does not hold, people on Main Street will pay the price.
I agree with you, sir.
And I just look forward to working with you, because I am very concerned that these kinds of budget cuts are short-sighted, especially when my local sheriff calls me and says, we need more support, and we're looking at budget cuts.
I'll work with you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield time.
Mr. Chairman, I have another unanimous consent request.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York is recognized for unanimous consent.
I seek to introduce a December 2024 OIG report from the Department of Justice, which confirms the conclusion of the Bill Barr Justice Department that the so-called whistleblower, a disgruntled former employee of the Intelligence Committee, was not a credible witness, and there were no further actions taken.
Without objection.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to submit some items for the record.
You bet. Gentleman from California.
First one, Trump's deportation diverts FBI agents off child predator cases. Second one, FBI director backtracks on administration's proposed budget cuts. And number three, Trump administration says 70% of ICE detainees do not have criminal convictions.
Without objection. Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Thank you. Director, earlier this year, the committee learned of new documents tied to the Crossfire Hurricane investigation and the Russia collusion hoax against President Trump. Your efforts in declassifying key documents tied to this investigation allowed the committee to acquire thousands of pages that it did not have previously. Did any of your predecessors make any effort to declassify these documents?
Not to the extent we have.
Did any of your predecessors share or leak any details that were classified at the time?
There are ongoing leak investigations across the board at the Bureau related to this.
I believe one of those is Mr. Comey, and I thank you for continuing that investigation. Among the declassified documents are the Durham Report Annex, the Crossfire Binder, and the Nellie Orr Criminal Referral. Could you summarize for those watching what we know about the Russia collusion hoax so far?
Well, sir, I think the record will speak that the Russia collusion matter was perpetrated by a political party to go overseas and obtain information from a foreign intelligence asset, only to have that information, which was demonstrably false, turned over to the FBI, who walked into a federal FISA secret court and asked for a secret surveillance court order and lied to the federal court, and we know that because someone was convicted of it, and only to surveil the political opponent. So that is a massive scandal. We helped expose it. And in terms of the pages of productions, I provided 1,400 pages of production related to Crossfire Hurricane, and my predecessors have provided 0.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate your courage and commitment to declassifying these important documents for our review, and hope that you'll continue with this commitment. Can we expect to see more declassification efforts regarding the Crossfire Hurricane and Russia collusion hoax?
Yes.
Thank you. I yield the remaining balance of my time to Chairman Jordan.
Oh, I thank the gentleman for yielding. And Director, that's when it all started, right? The whole Russia, that's when it all began. And then it was Mueller, then it was impeachment, then it was Jack Smith and Fonnie Willis and Alvin Bragg and you name it. But it all started then. And that's why I think the gentleman from Texas wants to make sure we get all the information there. And I want to go back to when it was changed. We talked about this earlier. I just want to read to you what the CIA officer said to the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, quote, Brennan refused to remove the dossier, and when confronted with the dossier's main flaws, he responded, yes, but doesn't it ring true? So that's what he initially said. And then when he was talking to this committee, he said the CIA was very much opposed to having any reference or inclusion of the Steele dossier in the intelligence community assessment. So on one hand, you got a witness who was there who said he refused to remove it even though he knew it was garbage, and then he's on the other hand telling the committee, no, we didn't want anything to do with it, it shouldn't have been a part of the intelligence community assessment, which we know it was. You know it was, you found that. Those are two entirely different stories. I think Mr. Brennan has some explaining to do, frankly, what happened there. And I think you said earlier that this whole thing, and I think you said to Mr. Gooden, this whole thing is being looked at as part of this grand conspiracy to undermine the president, whether it's Comey, Brennan, Clapper, former head of the Intelligence Committee, now senator from, whoever it is, that's all being looked at. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Well, we appreciate that. And part of what's also being looked at, and I think the gentleman from Wisconsin brought this up earlier, what is a burn bag for, by the way?
Generally speaking, the intelligence community obviously utilizes and possesses classified documents, but drafts of those classified documents and even ultimate finished products of those classified documents have to be recorded and or discarded. And if they are discarded, the only way we do that, the hard copies, is we literally put them in burn bags that are identified specifically for that purpose, and there is a very exact courier system in which those burn bags are obtained and the material inside is destroyed.
So it's to get rid of the material, right?
Yes, sir.
And it looks like the annex that Mr. Durham in his investigation had was put into a burn bag by your predecessor, I assume, to be destroyed. Is that accurate?
Without getting into the stylization of the evidence, anything that's put in a burn bag is for purposes of destruction.
Do you find that interesting that the Durham annex was placed in a burn bag, that you would discover that when you took over as the head of the FBI?
We found a lot of information in a lot of burn bags.
Well, we appreciate you finding that. We'd like to know a little bit more about that, and we look forward to that information coming forward. And I appreciate the gentleman yielding. With that, we now recognize the gentleman from Colorado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing. Thank you, Director Patel, for being here today. I have a couple of questions regarding a terrible shooting that occurred in Colorado, a state, as you may know, that I represent. You've testified previously about, I think, what you would describe as your efforts to provide more information regarding the investigation with respect to the horrific assassination of Mr. Kirk. And so, in that same vein, I'm hoping you can provide this committee and my constituents in Colorado with some clarity.
Absolutely.
I think, as my colleagues know, in Evergreen, Colorado, Jefferson County, a county that I proudly represent, at Evergreen High School, a shooter ultimately injured. 2 students were praying for their swift recovery. There's an article here from Colorado Public Radio. The title is, quote, FBI was already investigating an account that may have been linked to the Evergreen shooter. You're familiar with the circumstances generally, Director, regarding this terrible tragedy.
Yes.
So my understanding from the public reporting is that an organization reported to the FBI in July of this year regarding, just reading here from the article, that the FBI opened an assessment into a social media account user whose identity was unknown and who was discussing the planning of a mass shooting with threats nonspecific in nature. This is the FBI's statement to the press. And that the FBI continued to work this assessment investigation to identify the name and location of the user up until September 10th, 2025, which was the day of the tragedy. Can you provide us some clarity on what were the impediments to finding, the account user, and maybe describe in greater detail the FBI's work in that regard?
Generally speaking, yes, because I know even though the shooter's deceased, the investigation we're not done.
Sure.
And so the impediments to finding these individuals, and you highlight a great point, we had 2 huge tragedies in the span of days in this country. the school shooting in Evergreen, Colorado being one of them. And proactively going out onto these social media platforms, which are so large, is our biggest impediment. And we need to rely on the service providers. There's actual legislation, I can't remember the name of it, that's up for renewal, which will, and I think at the end of the month, which gives service providers the ability to report that information in from their end without liability. We need that to continue, because while the FBI has so many people and the police are great at doing it, there's just too many platforms to cover down on.
Well, I appreciate that, Director Patel, and I think we're certainly, I'm interested in continuing this conversation, because I think the reporting suggests that there's a pattern, and that ultimately we want to make sure that law enforcement is able to prevent this kind of tragedy from happening in the future. I have a question. It's not meant as a gotcha question, so it just frame it there. But it is in regards to some reporting around a periodic transaction report that you had filed earlier, this year. So this is in July, pursuant to the ethical obligations as a senior executive official.
All right, you've been listening in to FBI Director Kash Patel testifying during a House Oversight Committee hearing on Capitol Hill. That's in the top left corner of the screen, in the bottom right corner of the screen. That is video from President Trump's welcome over in the United Kingdom by the royal family. During the hearing that we were listening into, we heard FBI Director Kash Patel talk about everything from the Jeffrey Epstein investigation, the investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination, the January 6th insurrection, and currently the Colorado school shooting. We'll check back in with that coming up in just a little bit. In the meantime, while we were listening in, we did get two major developments on stories we have been following all morning long. First, having to do with the Washington Commanders' new stadium. The deal, the DC Council is supposed to vote on today, the $3.7 billion stadium deal. They're supposed to vote today. If it passes the DC Council, groundbreaking would begin next year to bring the Washington Commanders back home. However, Fox 5 obtained a letter the team sent to the DC Council, and it outlined some concerns the team has with the last-minute changes to the stadium bill. I want to read you portions of that letter. The Washington Commanders write to express our deep concern concerning the last-minute new demands proposed by the council mere hours before the final vote on the RFK Campus Redevelopment Act of 2025. For several months, our team worked in good faith with each council member to finalize this project. Just last month, an overwhelming majority of the council voted for this project, and we were proud to announce this deal with the mayor and the council. It reflected the widespread support from residents across the district who want to see more jobs, more opportunities, and celebrate their football team coming home. Less than 24 hours before the final vote, the Commanders organization was presented with a list of unworkable and impractical new last-minute demands by council members, which we simply cannot agree to, as it jeopardizes the deal. Most demands were made verbally without supporting documentation. Given our deep engagement with the council over many months and our proven willingness to address any council member feedback, this is unexpected and unfortunate. Many of these proposals significantly impact our ability to deliver this project as envisioned and will restrict the value this project would deliver. These amendments could limit or even preclude construction, reduce RFK's ability to attract major events, limit the city's ability to deliver on its proposed housing, and hinder CBE participation in the project. Additionally, unions have stressed their discomfort with the proposed changes and are lobbying against any further amendments to the deal. In the interest of moving forward with one of the most impactful projects in Washington, D.C., we urge you to honor our core agreement from only 1 month ago and move forward with final approval. That is the letter Fox 5 obtained that the team sent to the DC Council. Of course, we will have much more on this story. The council's set to vote this afternoon. We will be following it. We will bring it to you live when it happens. We also have team coverage, Tom Fitzgerald and David Kaplan working that. In the meantime, Coach Dan Quinn from the Commanders also held his media briefing before the team hits the field for practice. And we got an update on quarterback Jaden Daniels, JD5. He had a rehab session this morning, according to the coach, but he will not practice today. Dan Quinn says we will get an update on Friday. He says he wants to be smart about his return to the field, not just fast, but he did say that QB5 had a good start to the week. Marcus Mariota is set to speak later today to the media, not Jayden Daniels. In the meantime, the coach says that he needs to see Jayden on the field, back on the field, before any final decision can be made about his status. So we do want to talk more about Jayden Daniels, the Commanders, what they have coming up this weekend with a test against the Las Vegas Raiders coming on the heels of that loss to Green Bay the other day. So joining us now live, John Booty, sports analyst and former NFL player. John, thank you for your patience while I got through all of that, and thank you for joining us this afternoon on the Live Zone.
Well, thank you for having me on the show.
All right. Well, we do want to start with Jayden Daniels. You heard me just mention Coach Quinn said he had a rehab session today. He will not practice. Talk to us a little bit about what's happening behind the scenes as they evaluate this knee sprain.
Well, behind the scenes, they're making sure they're doing everything smart. They want to make sure that he's mobile, make sure that he's strong, that he's agile, and that his body mechanics is working up to par without anybody coming after him, put him through a rigorous test as far as practices going on. So they want to be smart. They want to engage him. They want to see what he's doing, how he's mobile, how he's moving around. We all know that he's smart and he has a strong arm, but they want to take their time and get more rest on it and not a lot of stress on it, and so that he can heal properly.
Let me ask you a question. He is clearly invaluable to this team, both from what he brings as his offensive weapons, whether it's his arm or whether it's his legs, also his position as a leader on this team. Should he play even if he is cleared?
You know, he should, because he is going to give the Commanders the best opportunity to win football games. That's why he's here, and protection is key. He's going to get stronger as the game goes on. He's going to play smart, but that is a morale boost to have their leader out on the field. They're seeing that he's playing and he's going to be smart the way he's going to play. That's going to boost the morale of the rest of the team.
On that note, though, and that kind of leads me into my next question, the decision-making process on when a player should power through and when they should rest. Does Jayden Daniels have any say in whether he's out on that field, or is the team going to decide, look, you're too valuable, we want to give you more time?
It's a team effort. Now, they got to look at the player. They're going to look at Jayden in his eyes and say, man, are you ready? Do you think you can do this? So it's going to be a collective team effort on the decision to have him play in Sunday's game. Now, again, he went through his reps this morning without anybody. He's going to take some time off, not practice today, but he's going to progress. By Friday, they're going to know if he's a full go. And still, that's going to be up to him and the training staff, the doctors, and the head coach. They may look at it and say, listen, we want to hold you back for another week. But it's going to be a collective effort.
Well, let me ask you this. From what we saw on Thursday night, we saw him come up limping a little late in the fourth quarter, but kind of ahead of that in the first three, we didn't get the same kind of dynamic Jayden Daniels we have seen in previous games. Some of that could be attributed to the fact that Green Bay is a good team. Let's just call it what it is. They also have Micah Parsons, and they have a lot of great defensive weapons. Jordan Love obviously doing very well as well. Also, obviously, all of the teams that the Commanders play have had a whole season of tape now to look at. Right. All of that being said, do you think Jayden needs to change his approach to the game? Does he need to play a little more cautious? We have seen him be willing to take some hits.
Now, one thing about playing professional football at any sport, when you start playing cautious and slowing down a little bit, that's when you really get hurt. You know what I mean? But he got to play smart, but he can play full speed, you know. And so, again, with the Green Bay Packers adding Parsons, hey, he got another guy coming at him this week in Crosby. They're going to be testing him to see how capable he is as leading his team on offense. But again, when you start playing cautious, that's when the injuries come about, you know. He's going to play smart. You can play smart by playing full speed, and I think he'll be able to do that if they decide to have him play this week. and he's a smart player. So mentally, he's into it. He knows the game plan. He knows what he got to do. Again, it's a team effort. You got to have some protection for him. You got to have those guys up front protecting him. And when he does break the pocket, if he decides to break the pocket, he got to use his mindset to make the best decision while he's running the football down the field.
Yeah, I think the last thing a lot of Commanders want is any sort of history repeating itself. We saw what happened to RG3 a few seasons ago when he had that devastating knee injury, and really his career never came back the way the dynamic player that we saw before that.
I believe that they're going to be smart about it. You know, we know this is an AFC team they're playing, and that they are going to make the best decision because they're going to be looking down the road. All these decisions are going to be made, the longevity of him and the long haul down on this season, you see. And so they may come to a conclusion on Friday and say, listen, we're going to pull you back, but we understand that you are the key to our success this year, and we need you healthy.
All right, well, I just want to take a quick minute here to say that it's 1 o'clock. If you are just joining us here on the Fox 5 Live Zone, we are talking to John Booty all about Jaden Daniels. We just learned minutes ago that he will not practice today. He did have a rehab session, and we will hopefully find out more on Friday about his status for this weekend's game. So looking ahead to this weekend's game, the Raiders obviously played Monday night. They got a short week ahead of them. They have to fly across the field. They got to deal with the time change. So no matter who's starting under center on Sunday, what do you kind of expect from the Commanders and the Raiders?
Well, no matter who's starting, they're going to have a complete football game because it's still early in the season. The Raiders got to travel across the country. That's what they get paid for to do, to play football games. I think they're going to have an opportunity to get some rest. There's more of a mental aspect of it now. They do know that they keep an eye on Daniels as well. So, but they know on defense they're going to have their ears pinned back to go out and come after whomever is at quarterback. Defense playing well. They 1-1. They think that they can have improved. Pete Carroll he's a marksman and getting guys ready. I played for Pete back in 1990 when he was a defense coordinator with the Jets. So he's going to have the Raiders ready to play some football on Sunday.
Let's stick with the Raiders here for a second and talk about Tom Brady. I'm sure you have heard the flack that he got after being in the coach's booth on Monday. The Fox Sports broadcaster, part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, was spotted in the team's coaching booth. He was wearing a headset, sparked some outrage online. The NFL says he did not break any rules. He can sit in the booth, but he is barred from practices or on-site meetings. Grant Paulson from 106.7 The Fan FM, he was not a fan of this. He called it a conflict of interest. Tom just called the Commanders' first game of the season. He had the access to the team, and now the team that he's a minority owner of is facing the Commanders this weekend. So theoretically, what could stop him from taking what he knows about the team and going and sitting in the coaching booth? How do you feel about this?
Well, I agree. You know, I think it's a bit of a conflict of interest because, you know, he's in the broadcast booth. He's a minority owner of the Raiders, and he's been seen in the broadcast booth with the headsets on, giving some advice to somebody, right? So he's going to be able to deliver some input about the Commanders when he did their game, and so I don't know. Just the NFL says nothing wrong with it, but again, you know, I guess it's good to be Tom Brady, huh? So you can do all that stuff, but again, for the players and for the owner, other teams, that shouldn't be. I agree. That shouldn't be. I mean, it's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, it's one of those sort of instances, I think, for a lot of fans where there's smoke, there's fire. Tom Brady, of course, a member of our Fox family, calling games for Fox Sports as well. Before I move on to talk a little bit more about what else is going on in the NFC East, I did want to get a quick score prediction from you for Sunday's game.
Well, you know, I predicted the Commanders go to Green Bay and pull an upset, but my prediction was not right. But I want to give them the home field advantage. You know, there is an opportunity for them to make some plays, even with Mariota back there because he's a veteran. He knows the system. Yes, the Commanders are kind of banged up, but I'm going to give them that home field advantage, maybe be 21-20, something like that.
All right. Well, What I heard from you, John Booty, is that Commanders fans, all those burgundy and gold faithful out there, need to pack Northwest Stadium and be on their feet cheering for their team this Sunday. Of course, you can catch that game right here on Fox 5. We'll talk about that in a second. But in the meantime, let's move on to the NFC East. This past weekend, we got that Super Bowl rematch, the Eagles and the Chiefs. Yeah. Patrick Mahomes, for the first time in his NFL career, has now dropped 3 games. The Eagles, obviously, right now, sitting pretty atop the NFC East. What did you make of that game?
Well, what I make of that game, that, it's always good to beat Patrick Mahomes. He's 0-2, but that team is a well-coached team. They had opportunities. The Chiefs did, to beat the Eagles, but the Eagles make the plays when they had to. They made the stops when they had to, on offense or on defense. Offensively, the Eagles are going to have to do better. I think they're going to have to make some plays down the stretch. Again, this is early in the season, so everybody's not making use this for an excuse. They got to get that thing together. Now, with Kelsey, you made those catches in the past. That's on you. I mean, he put the ball away from Blankenship. You got to make that catch. You can't catch with your forearms. You got to use your hands on that. The lucky break for the fortunate break for the Eagles, for the rookie to get his first interception of the year and be a great player for that team. Now, they're going to bounce back, Kansas City Chiefs. They still a team to beat in the AFC because they did play the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and the Eagles they're a team to beat because they are the reigning champs right now. So it's going to be a task for both of those teams, but they got to get better every year and keep building chemistry up. That's what they're going to have to do.
A lot of football left to play, obviously. Meanwhile, sitting at the bottom of the NFC East currently, we've got the Cowboys and the Giants. However, that game that we saw at 1 o'clock on Sunday was kind of epic. Came down to the final seconds, a last-second field goal, I should say, by Brandon Aubrey. Of course, Russell Wilson looking like the old Russell Wilson, especially when it came to the long ball. What do you make of these two teams? Is this division still wide open?
Well, I think the division for the NFC East is still the Eagles team going to win it, but they put up a lot of points against each other. Russell Wilson looked good, that deep ball exposed the Cowboys secondary, right? And it's great to have a great kicker who can kick long field goals, right? And also for Dak and his receivers to make the plays when they have to make the plays. I guess you could say the Giants didn't do their job on defense by giving up some plays where they knew that the Cowboys need to make some plays to get in position to go in overtime. So I still see the Eagles atop. Commanders are right there behind them. Those two, they put a lot of points against each other, and other teams in the NFC East are seeing that. So they're saying we can, even though the Cowboys played well, did fairly well against the Eagles at first game, I think they're going to say, hey, listen, we still can put a team together to beat the Cowboys and the Giants, Commanders and the Eagles are saying.
John, I don't want to rush ahead, but I honestly cannot wait until December when that new season of Hard Knocks mid-season debuts that covers all those NFC teams, because I'm sure they have to. Theoretically, they have to be filming right now, I would imagine. So we're going to get a lot of behind-the-scenes drama, I'm sure.
Yeah, I spoke with some folks at the NFL Films about it, and they said they're gonna start. I don't know when they're starting, but I think they are. I don't know who's all out there at the complexes and doing some filming, but it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to roll out for the NFC East, getting this exposure on Hard Knocks and how they prepared for that towards the end of the season to make the run for the playoffs.
All right, before we let you go, John, I just want to ask real quick, what besides the Commanders would be your must-watch game of the week?
Oh, the must-watch game of the week? I think the Eagles are playing the Rams, and the Rams went to Philadelphia last year and lost in the playoffs in that snow game. So the Rams going to go into Philly, and they're going to want to prove that they're better than what they demonstrated last January. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think it's the must-see watch game.
And Justin Herbert has looked good in the last 2 games, putting up over 500 yards in the air. John Booty, Thank you so much for joining us and weighing in. Hey, before I let you go, real quick, we've been talking about the RFK Stadium deal, these last-minute changes that the D.C. Council has apparently proposed, the letter that the Commanders sent. Just give me your thoughts on what's happening today.
Today is crucial because, you thought, and I watched it, and they had it all together, but no one wants those surprises, Hopefully that they're in talks right now to iron this all out so they can get this approved. It's good that the Commanders are sticking to their core negotiation program. And since this came out, I'm quite sure they're just the powers that be in those rooms right now are really negotiating and saying, listen, we all going to look bad if this thing don't work out. And we need this to happen.
All right. John Booty, sports analyst and former NFL player, thank you so much for spending a little time with us today on the Live Zone.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. Well, if you want more football, good news. For more, check out our show, NFC Beast, hosted by Chad Ricardo. He's talking all things NFC East with reporters from Philly, Dallas, and New York. You can watch that live on our YouTube page at 3:30 today, this afternoon, or you can catch it on demand later on Fox Local. Then on Sunday, of course, our coverage kicks off with Game Time Live at 10:30 a.m. right here on Fox 5, then streaming at noon on Fox Local. It's a tailgate party with the one and only man of the people, Chad Ricardo, as they count down to the showdown. The big game kicks off right here on Fox 5 at 1 p.m. Fox 5 DC and Fox Local, the only places to be for the best Commanders coverage. And with that, 71 minutes into the Fox 5 Live Zone, we will take our first break. Thanks for staying with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Fox 5 Live Zone. Coming up on 3:15, we want to take you back to the House floor minutes ago, which was debating the D.C. Policing Protection Act. This is a bill that would permit D.C. police to engage in vehicular pursuits. Take a listen.
Which was the guy who had committed an armed robbery at a local hardware store, had pistol whipped the manager of that store, made it to his car, fired at officers, and began. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the time and the indulgence to the chairman and the speaker. I just urge strong support of H.R. 5143. It restores legitimate discretion to the police officers that actually work the streets of D.C. I yield the balance of my time. I thank you all.
Gentleman yields. Gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Obviously, I just want to thank the gentleman from Louisiana also for his service in law enforcement. And I know that he is trying to help in trying to move public safety forward. I know that's his intention, but I just want to clarify a few things. It's been mentioned that this committee somehow, or that this bill somehow has been heard by a committee. We have not held a hearing on these bills to clarify. Our hearing on DC is actually tomorrow. There's been no coordination with the mayor or the city council. They oppose this bill. And I do want to clarify, it's been mentioned a few times when we've debated this bill that there's somehow 14 criteria that officers have to consider before engaging in a pursuit. The law is very clear. The suspect must have committed or attempted a crime of violence or pose an imminent threat of death or seriously bodily harm. The pursuit is necessary to protect another person from serious bodily injury or not likely to cause injury to others, and all other options have been exhausted or do not reasonably lend themselves to the circumstances, is actually what the actual law says. So I just want to note that. I'm not sure what those 14 criteria are, and I want to yield, of course, 7 minutes to the gentlewoman from the District of Columbia, Representative Norton.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. I strongly oppose this undemocratic and paternalistic bill, which amends D.C. law. The over 700,000 D.C. residents, the majority of whom are black and brown, are capable and worthy of governing themselves. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record letters opposing this bill from D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, the entire D.C. Council, and D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwab.
Without objection.
D.C.'s local legislature, the council has 13 members. If D.C. residents do not like how members vote, residents can vote them out of office or pass a ballot measure. That is called democracy. Congress has 535 voting members. None are elected by D.C. residents. If D.C. residents do not like how members vote on local D.C. matters, residents cannot vote them out of office or pass a ballot measure. This is the antithesis of democracy. The substance of this bill is irrelevant since there is never justification for Congress to legislate on local D.C. matters. Nevertheless, I will discuss it. Vehicular pursuits by police officers are inherently dangerous, not just for officers and suspects, but for bystanders too. And often there are other options to detain a suspect. D.C. permits vehicular pursuits, but it imposes limitations on them. According to the International Association of Chiefs of Police, vehicular pursuit policies must balance the risks, take all of the factors into consideration, and reach a decision that is best suited to their jurisdictions. Unlike D.C., 2% of local police departments prohibit vehicular pursuits altogether. The sponsor of this bill, who is from Louisiana, thinks he knows better than D.C. how to strike the proper balance in D.C. I will read for my Republican colleagues part of the signing statement your fellow Republican, President Richard Nixon, issued on the D.C. Home Rule Act. One of the major goals of this administration is to place responsibility for local functions under local control and to provide local governments with the authority and resources they need to serve their communities effectively. The measure I signed today represents a significant step in achieving this goal in the city of Washington. I will give the people of the District of Columbia the right to elect their own local officials and to govern themselves in local affairs. As the nation approaches the 200th anniversary of its founding, it is particularly appropriate to assure those persons who live in our capital city rights and privileges which have long been enjoyed by most of their countrymen. DC residents have all the obligations of American citizenship, including paying federal taxes, serving on juries, and registering with the Selective Service. Yet Congress denies them full local government and voting representation in Congress. The only solution to this undemocratic treatment is to grant DC statehood. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a letter explaining why DC statehood is constitutional from leading constitutional scholars, including Larry Tribe.
Without objection.
The DC statehood bill, H.R. 51, the Washington, D.C. Admission Act, grants D.C. residents full local self-government and voting representation in Congress. H.R. 51 reduces the size of the federal district from 68 square miles to 2 square miles, consisting of the White House, the Capitol, the Supreme Court, the National Mall, and remaining under the control of Congress. The new state consists of the residential and commercial areas of D.C. The new state has a larger population than 2 states, pays more federal taxes per capita than any state, and pays more local federal taxes than 21 states. I urge members to vote no on the D.C. Policing Protection Act. Keep their hands off D.C. and free D.C., and I yield back.
Gentlewoman yields. Gentleman from California reserves. Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized. Gentleman from Kentucky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to enter a letter from Representative Min into the record, which clarifies that he meant to vote yes on H.R. 5143 in committee.
The gentleman's request will be covered by general leave. Gentleman is recognized.
I reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from New Jersey, Representative McIver.
Thank you.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you to the ranking member. Mr. Speaker, I rise today with deep concern for our nation's capital, also known as Chocolate City. The 4 Republican bills on the floor this week are a direct attack on the people of this city, particularly the Black and brown communities who have called D.C. home for generations. Residents who have built thriving small businesses, who have received an education from D.C. school system, and residents who have raised families and called themselves proud Washingtonians since birth. This bill, H.R. 5143, would impose the president's twisted vision of justice on D.C., overriding the autonomy of this city and hurting the people who live here, enabling deadly vehicle pursuits of suspects in the city. As a former councilwoman and a council president of the largest city in New Jersey, I know firsthand that this is dangerous. And that's on top of the other bills that we're debating this week that seek to strip D.C. of its autonomy, force more juveniles into the justice system, expand the president's gross overreach, and make things worse. The bills proposed by my Republican colleagues would worsen the already rampant injustices we see in the criminal justice system, make law enforcement more dangerous, and steal the futures of many of our youth. These bills all send the same statement to Washingtonians. The administration does not believe you have the same right to dignity as other parts of this nation. If Congress truly wants to make our nation's capital as safe as it can be, we would listen to the residents of D.C. and their elected leaders who have lived experience of what this community needs. The dog whistles used to justify these bills are not true. The D.C. government has long taken a proactive approach to reducing crime in the district, and today is experiencing a 3-decade low in crime. DC has done this in part by having a police force that looks like the very people it is sworn to protect, lives in the community it serves, and caters to the unique needs of DC residents. H.R. 5143 discourages basic public safety.
Gentlewoman, an extra minute, please.
Without objection.
Discourages public safety, pushes lies about crime in the Black and brown communities, and puts everyone in harm's way at risk. That is why it is no surprise of who the sponsor is of this very dangerous and wicked bill. This bill is dangerous once again and a complete disaster to this community. I urge my colleagues to vote no, and with that, I yield back.
Gentlewoman yields. Gentleman from California reserves. Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 3 additional minutes to the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Higgins.
Gentleman yields, or gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman. Let me just diplomatically address a couple of the accusations here regarding the nature of my bill. The gentlelady acknowledged that there's danger involved. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Enforcing the law is dangerous. This is why your professional law enforcement officers across the country, including here in D.C., are incredibly well vetted and trained and equipped to make decisions in a matter of seconds or less to pursue criminals and to enforce the law. It's dangerous work. It's dangerous for the officer. It can result in injury or death for the criminal. It can result in injury or death for innocent Americans. But let us never forget that the interaction was initiated by the criminal. So, yes, enforcing the law is dangerous work. What's more dangerous, Mr. Speaker, is failure to enforce the law. What's more dangerous for every community, including our nation's capital, for which this body has a responsibility to stand. What's more dangerous for every community is failure to give discretion for enforcement of law to the very law enforcement professionals that you have trained and equipped and placed on the street. To not allow those professionals to make decisions and enforce the law, that is incredibly dangerous. So, my bill stands on the side of the citizenry of D.C. in the effort to enforce the law by fully empowering the police officers of D.C. to engage criminal conduct and enforce the law. Mr. Speaker, I yield.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Kentucky reserves. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to yield 5 minutes to the gentleman from Maryland, Representative Ivey.
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank my colleague for yielding, and Mr. Speaker, I want to state that I rise in strong opposition to the gentleman's bill. I appreciate my colleague from Louisiana. We've had a chance to serve together on committees, and I know he has a strong respect for law enforcement. So I'm not saying his heart's in the wrong place, but I am saying this bill is wrong. And I say that from personal experience. You're right, I was never in an active car pursuit, but I was a prosecutor here in Washington, D.C., and for 8 years in Prince George's County, which is the eastern border of Washington, D.C. So I've seen the results of some of these high-speed chases. Now, the bill that's drafted, that he's proposed, actually takes away a reasonable balance that was drawn by the people here of the District of Columbia, as is their right for a democracy. And also, one of the things we need to keep in mind, and my colleague addressed this kind of briefly, but frankly skipped over it, what happens when that chase leads to the death of innocent civilians. When you said you'd been in 100 car chases, a chill went through my body, I gotta say, because I've seen the results, the deadly consequences of some of these car chases. And when you have to go talk to that family and tell them why their loved ones died, you don't want to have to say that it was over something minor, like a stolen car. So the balance that the city struck was that it should be for an imminent violent offense, high-level felony, something like that, that really you understand why they would have engaged in the pursuit. But this bill would take that away and expand it open so that you could have high-speed chases taking place with respect to misdemeanors. And this isn't a hypothetical for me. When I was the state's attorney in Prince George's County, we actually had one of these. We had several, but I'll just pick one for purposes of time. Police officer saw a stolen motorcycle zip down the Beltway and decided to pursue it. Now, stealing a motorcycle is a misdemeanor, speeding is a misdemeanor, but he decided to pursue it anyway. Now, mind you, this is during rush hour, so he had to pursue on the border of the road, and speeds got up to over 100 miles an hour on the Beltway in rush hour. And of course, it's hard for a car to catch a motorcycle, especially when it can weave in and out of traffic. So he didn't make the apprehension. But what he did do, as he was speeding along on the side of the road at 100 miles an hour plus, was come across debris on the car, or on the road, and he tried to swerve to avoid it. And when he did that, the car jumped over the Jersey barrier between the two lanes and took him into the opposite lane of oncoming traffic. The car jumped over, hit the top of a car coming in the opposite direction, and killed 2 men on their way to a concert. They had nothing to do with any kind of high-speed chase. They didn't have anything to do with any kind of criminal activity. These are people who were good folks, actually just visiting in the area. One was from Buffalo, who died because of a high-speed chase over a minor misdemeanor. That doesn't make any sense. And it's not like that only happens in Prince George's County. Here in Washington, D.C., we had a similar kind of case. It was back in 2016. It led to a deadly chase on East Capitol and Benning Road. Now, the chases you were talking about, maybe those are rural areas, but those are high-traffic areas, even in the nighttime. And sometimes these pursuits take place during the day. This led to a death of an innocent man. This was over a stolen car. Think about what you would say to that family when you're explaining to them that your father, your brother, your son lost his life over a stolen car. And then the other part that influences me, again, I represent Prince George's County now, but sometimes when they start high-speed chases in D.C., they go into Prince George's County, into Montgomery County, into Northern Virginia. And we lost someone during a high-speed chase on the Baltimore-Washington Parkway. Another stolen car case. So when we make these decisions about when a chase is permitted or should be permitted or not, we need to keep in mind that there can be deadly consequences from when this happens, and it frequently occurs. And it's not like this is unusual. The Washington Post just did a piece about the park police, 10 of these instances in recent weeks. Couple last points. One is liability. The federal government's going to put this burden on the city, but when that liability happens from the
Gentleman's time has expired.
Want to yield another 2 minutes, please?
Gentleman's recognized for another 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When that liability arises from a car chase that didn't make any sense to a jury, the city can be on the hook for millions of dollars.
All right, that is from the House floor, the D.C. Policing Protection Act currently being debated. This was a few moments ago, actually. This bill would permit D.C. police to engage in vehicular pursuits. We heard some arguments for and against it. The arguments against it coming from D.C. Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, who has spoke out against all of these measures that attack D.C. home rule. You also were just hearing from Maryland Representative Glenn Ivey, sharing some of his experience prosecuting cases that arose from vehicular pursuits that ended in deaths. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to lighten things up a little bit. Some celebrity dish, some talkers, and more. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Fox 5 Live Zone on this Wednesday afternoon. 2 days in a row, the media prints, but today, live in studio with us. Welcome back.
Thank you. We are officially live in the zone, literally.
That's right. All right, talking a little celebrity dish today. Let's dive right in. And we're talking about Cardi B, because she had a major announcement this morning, and it's got some local ties, and that's my favorite part. Cardi B pregnant with NFL star and Gaithersburg, Maryland native Stefon Diggs' baby. You know him also as the NFL wide receiver currently on the Patriots. Cardi made the announcement during a sit-down with CBS News this morning, confirming the speculation that had been running rampant on social media for a few weeks now. This will be Cardi's fourth child, her first with Stefon Diggs. Her last child was actually born just about 1 year ago in September. Cardi and Stefon started dating late last year after her split with Offset. They were spotted on New Year's Eve. Didn't actually make it official until like March when they were spotted courtside at that Knicks game. But Cardi B, another baby and a new album.
You know what? When you said that, I didn't even think about it. She's getting ready to have a DMV baby.
That's right.
Isn't that crazy?
I know, I love it. I love it when there's these local ties that can bring it all home.
I didn't even think about that, but finally. The fans can finally breathe because we've been wondering, is like, and then she's been beating us up online if we ask the question. We saw what she did to that reporter who asked after court. So we don't want any pins thrown at us. But it does allow us to breathe now that we can leave the speculation. Now we're just wondering how soon is this baby coming because she just announced that tour. And, you know, good thing is we saw when she did perform here in DC at Broccoli City, she was very far along and she still gave an amazing performance in heels. So at least maybe I know we're last on the tour. So by the time she gets to DC, guys, the baby should well be out the belly and in the house. But you know, if the first two shows she may have to perform.
Yeah, that was my question though, is what impact will this have on the tour? I mean, I think that was a lot of people's first question because she's supposed to be here in DC at Capital One Arena in April. Tickets on sale this week. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
She better get on it because I would love to see, the way she described the spectacle of how the show will be so grand. I don't want to see a belly. I want to see a flat stomach, and I want you to give me Cardi B.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure the rehearsals and everything, she's going to have to take
Yes,
all
she's-
of that into
yes,
account. We will
yes.
stay on top of it. All right, let's talk about another little local connection.
Okay.
Because we're talking about Love is Blind. Season 7, you may remember, was set right here in Washington, D.C., and now it's facing another legal issue, the Netflix series. Producers are being hit with a new lawsuit, this time from Season 7 contestant Steven Richardson. Richardson filed a class action lawsuit over claims of labor violations and excess. He says producers subjected contestants to sleep deprivation, isolation, lack of food, and an excess of alcohol. Fans of the show, however, remember Richardson as the less than faithful fiance to cast member Monica Davis. You saw him right there with the ginger beard.
Right.
Some people, some critics may claim that this lawsuit may have more to do with how he may have appeared on the show.
That's exactly what it is, because all he did was describe the recipes for a great reality show. Limited food, a lot of alcohol, and no sleep. Cameras rolling. That's basically,
24/7,
that's what he,
exactly.
welcome to showbiz. I don't think there's a guidebook on what reality TV is until you get there and realize that there too has to be some type of storyline or capturing of how you get this. And sometimes we may need you to reshoot this scene again. We may need you to do this again. You may need to wake up and do your confessionals. Welcome to you signed up for the TV show. I don't think he'll win with this lawsuit, especially since it seems like no one else is also backing his claims. It seems like everyone else from the show is going out and prospering, and they haven't had any complaints. So it's like,
yeah,
if you just,
I will be kind of curious to see if any other cast members from that particular season speak out, because I know that there have been complaints from other cast members on previous seasons over similar conditions. But to your point, I do think it might be just a lack of knowing what you're getting yourself into.
right, because if you think about it, the other past people that were complaining weren't people that were in the good light either. You don't see the stars of the show that are frolicking in New York Fashion Week having a good time. What is her name? Alendria? She's like the star right now. She hasn't complained any. So what are you complaining, sir? Because you didn't like how you were portrayed, and you did the portraying.
Have to wait and see how that plays out. I'm going to do a quick self-plug here, though, because Season 7 cast member, Love is Blind cast member from right here in the DMV, Marissa George is actually going to be my guest tonight on Do You Like It or Not? So we'll see how her experience was and whether she liked it or not. 7:30 right here on Fox Local and on YouTube. We're going to stay on the reality front. We're going to stay with the local ties now because we're talking about the new Golden Bachelorette. Also local ties. That makes 2 in a row. This morning we're getting a look at the new contestant on the Golden Bachelorette. Local woman from Rockville, 65-year-old Jerry is a grandmother who owns a home care agency. Jerry says she's ready to find love again, is looking for a man who she can spoil and be his dessert after a long day. Remember, Joan Vassos was the Golden Bachelorette from right here in Rockville as well. So I love that they're mining the DMV for this local talent.
We're just
for this
really
reality
just taking
talent.
over on TV, and I love it. DMV holds some of the best talent and some of the best stories and some of the most unique people. So finally, Hollywood and TV and reality are finally capturing that. So I'm excited.
I am too, to be honest with you. I just, it's on some other network. But that's okay. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
There's room
There's
at
room
the
for us
table
all.
for everybody, I guess.
I guess.
Media Prince, what else you got coming up?
So much. We're still in the final season of Conversation with the Media Prince. I would love to get this guy on the season. You can catch me every weekend, Saturdays 3 to 7 p.m. on Lit 106. And just out frolicking and trying to catch up on sleep.
Yeah.
And I'm in the gym. I am in the gym very heavy right now. Oh, and I have a book out too on Amazon.
Oh, that just a book out too, in addition to everything else. The Man Who Never Sleeps but is trying to get that sleep and get in the gym. Media Prince, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
as
Chris.
Always.
Yes.
We'll be right back with more Live Zone. All right, welcome back to the Fox 5 Live Zone on this Hump Day Wednesday, as Annie Mae would call it. Joining us
you
now.
gotta give us a better.
I'm not even going to pretend to be able to do it as
Maybe
well as you
pretend
can.
to be me
No.
for a day. I'm sure it's a difficult
I
task.
can't even imagine what that would be like.
Insanity.
It would be.
Scheduled insanity.
Yeah, okay. Before we dive into some of the talkers today, I was watching the morning show this morning, and you guys were talking about sure signs that a couple was doomed at their wedding.
Yes.
And shoving their face in cake.
Yeah.
Top of the list.
Do you agree?
I 100% do. It was not even a discussion before my wedding. It was just like, yeah, this is not happening, right? But it's weird. I will tell you, like, it automatically feels when you're in that moment and everyone's standing around you like they're expecting it for some reason.
I think for me, I sit here and I go, you know what? You don't know me. You do not know me as a person. You don't know me enough to get married to me if you think that I'm going to think that's funny.
Gonna be a fun way
you think that's going to go over well for you.
to celebrate our love with an act of violence.
I
know,
am
some people love it.
clinically insane. I'm crazy. Like when it comes to like OCD for things, like my wedding, I'm going to be spending hours getting ready.
We're gonna put a breaking news banner down here.
Breaking news, Annie Mae is crazy.
clinically
Everybody
insane.
already knows that. That's not breaking. That's like current news, like consistent news. No, but like, I mean, I've worked so hard for the day, like preparing stuff. I'm crazy, like OCD with it when it comes to like stuff like that. I've gotten ready for so long.
You've already planned the wedding?
I haven't, but I know like along the lines like what I want to do and where I want to go.
I respect that. I always
It
had
will be
questions
planned.
about the person who planned the wedding before they met the groom.
It'll
And
be
I
like-
know you have.
Yeah,
maybe,
it'll be 12:01:02, and I'll be like, okay, bathroom break. You got 12 seconds.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's dive into today's talkers, and we're going to start off with this idea of networking.
Okay.
Okay, it's important. A lot of people do it. However, it's where people are doing it. Saunas, the hot new spot for getting a new job. The Wall Street Journal reporting that more and more people are getting into the steam room with their future coworkers. People are hoping to optimize wellness spaces and getting the most out of their time in the hot box. Annie Mae, networking in the nude. Theoretically, I mean, sometimes in these sort of saunas.
One, I'm not
Doesn't
going to
this-
let you get away with the term hot box because that means something else. Two,
This is a
nude
literal,
networking.
literal.
You lost me at nude networking.
What about then just in a towel in a sauna?
That's
or a
just
swimsuit?
weird.
Isn't it
That's
still
just not
weird?
the place. That's not the place.
I agree.
know, you know, and I understand like pretty like loose networking where you like go to a concert and you're networking with people. You go golfing and you're networking with people. I'm here for that because you have something in common. You're talking about something, a sporting event, exactly. You know, and they get you a little box seat and whatever. You know, I'm okay with networking like that. For me, this is like too personal. I guess maybe in a business of like what we're doing, I think it's a little different. Maybe in like the gym business, if you're in the gym business or like the health business, like for you, for us, no.
Yeah, if you're in the sauna business, then sure,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Hot
But otherwise,
boxing.
isn't it supposed to be relaxing? Isn't it supposed to be a time to like stop thinking about work
Yes.
and stress and all that?
If somebody
other stuff?
started networking with me in the sauna, I'd be like, no, we're not talking about this right now.
I'm
when
not
I
a big,
leave,
not a
it's
big fan of it either.
Yeah.
Okay, we agree on this
Okay,
one. You know what the new hot girl hobby of 2025 is?
whatever I do on a daily basis.
Do you bird on a daily basis?
No.
Are you a birder?
Apparently, I'm not a
Annie
hot
Mae?
girl.
All right. Well, apparently, according to Pop Sugar, birding, the hot girl hobby of the year. They say what was once a pastime with a, quote, geriatric tinge has taken off with Gen Z. Don't you love headlines that talk about Gen Z like
And
you're a
they're
foreign
so
species?
false all the time.
Experts say it's not only good for our souls, it's good for birds and the environment too. Actually, singer and songwriter Bonner Black, who was quoted in the article and profiled, says a binocular harness is the sexiest new accessory that every hot girl needs. Now,
Not
Annie
even-
Mae, as a card-carrying member of the Hot Girl Club,
Check.
your binocular harness?
No, this is a silly.
Is it on
thing
your
I'm
birthday
with.
/ Christmas wish list?
No, I couldn't even tell you more than what, like a cardinal and a bluebird, because like I know what those look
You've
like.
never
Other
heard
than
of
that,
a robin redbreast?
No, I've heard of a blue-footed booby and a
That's actually my
flamingo.
favorite.
And a flamingo.
Guess
I know
why?
what, like those birds are because I'm 11. That's why. Because I have
Yeah,
no
likewise.
maturity whatsoever.
You
Not a
and me
mature
both.
bone in my body.
So having moved to the suburbs and having like a bird feeder outside my window, endless enjoyment.
That's fun.
Endless enjoyment.
That's cute.
But
And
I
you
also
use
have
little
a,
binoculars
no,
and
I
you're
have,
like-
just have a cat and I watch her
Go
have
crazy.
full-on meltdowns. Literally pounce at the window and bounce off because she wants to murder those birds so bad.
That's
so
so
I don't know if
sweet.
that counts, but you know.
As a hobby, no.
No,
More than like
it's-
5 seconds of my time taking a look at a bird, no, I'm good.
I mean, maybe just walking in nature,
I have better hobbies than this.
such as
Going to get coffee and
Scrolling
sitting and watching
TikTok.
scrolling and sitting and watching Netflix.
Would you
Whatever
watch?
show of
Yeah,
the day is.
exactly. I have a good new list of recommendations coming out later.
Okay,
Stay
well, I'm
tuned for
ready.
that.
I'm ready to
That's
see it.
later, though. All right, let's talk about the end of the 5-day work week. Maybe in our future. 5-day work week, thing of the past, at least according to Zoom CEO Eric Yuan. He predicts most companies will soon adopt 3 or 4-day schedules in the age of artificial intelligence. His predictions actually align with several other tech giants who believe AI will help reduce heavy workloads for humans. But on the flip side of this, of course, is if AI is more involved to the degree that work weeks are shortened, it could be inevitable that many human workers will eventually be replaced altogether.
So we've talked about this. I have like mixed opinions on it, right? Because I do like AI and I do think it's a beneficial tool in a lot of ways. I think it can lighten your workload. I don't think it can, to be completely honest, like with how wrong like AI is like pretty like quite often. Like I go on ChatGPT and I'm always correcting it, to be completely honest, even the same with like Gemini as well. I just think with like the accuracy and with the lack of like any sort of like human decision making qualities, it's never going to completely take over your job. I, for one, would love for it to take over a portion of my job. You know, like we were talking about it in there where when we have the teleprompter, we scroll with like little remotes. That's why you see the little remotes in our hand on air. That could totally easily be like it reads what I'm saying and it does it based on my cadence and it you know, it kind of rolls it for you. So that's just an additional thing that I do with my job, but I don't think it could ever like fully take over because it has no idea what's going to come out of my mouth because I don't even know what's going to come out of my mouth. So it can't replicate me.
Nor
you know what I mean?
Nor do her producers. I
No
can
one-
attest to that.
No one knows.
I agree with you in that sense that it's never
Yeah.
going to fully replace some
Jobs,
positions.
yeah.
If it can make portions of your day easier.
Easier.
And
I'm
free
for
up
it.
time. Listen, there are days where I could probably do my job in 4 hours, but
Yeah.
I'm here for 8. If in that case they wanted to consolidate, I would just go back to I would be all about the 4 10-hour work days rather
Yeah.
than 5 8-hour work days.
I'm here for it.
Most people are already probably working more than 8 hours a day anyway.
Yeah. The thing
So-
is I'm not for it taking your entire job unless your job is something that could be taken over. I'm not a fan of like the things where they do the AI version, like a chat AI person at like a McDonald's or whatever, because I literally just saw this video on TikTok of them doing it like I think it was like either a Dunkin' or a Krispy Kreme or whatever, where he was like 6 donuts and they were like 1 donut and he's like 6 donuts and they're like 1 like no bro, like
Don't
they don't
quote me on this,
and
but
then somebody else has to babysit it.
Yeah.
You're not eliminating any jobs, you're not consolidating, you're not taking the workload off of people, you're just adding another thing for them
This
to
is kind of how I
babysit.
feel about self-checkout, to be honest with you, because inevitably there ends up being a bunch of people standing around
Need help.
watching
I don't
you
need
check
help.
out.
I
Or
don't need help.
They're watching you check out instead of actually just checking you out
Literally.
and keeping things a little bit more.
Yeah. I think the idea is there. I don't think the execution's there yet, to be
I
completely
agree.
honest.
I think Taco Bell was one of the ones that tested
I think
the
it was
AI
that too.
drive-thrus, and
Yeah.
they just said they abandoned it after a certain
You just
amount
end
of
up
time.
babysitting it.
However, I would like a 3-day work or a 3-day weekend every week to, one day to like get stuff done, appointments, all that kind of stuff, and then one day to relax and one day to get ready for everything you got to do.
I think
It
it's
would
too
be
by
nice.
the time,
It would be
Friday
nice.
rolls around, most people are done at 5. We're done a little bit. Well, I guess your schedule shape, but people are
Oh,
done. We're
rub
done.
it in.
We're done.
That's
Trust
gonna
me,
do
I
it.
ain't rubbing anything
For
in, okay?
any- Yeah, I know. You got to wake up a
Trust
little
me.
earlier than I do these days.
Literally. But I feel like by the time we hit Friday, it's like there's no time left in the weekend.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining us
You're
for
welcome
today's Talkers
for filling
on
10
this.
minutes of your time with my nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Coming up next, more Live Zone. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Fox 5 Live Zone on this Wednesday afternoon. It's been a busy day, and we have much more still ahead here on Fox 5. The RFK Stadium deal, the big story today. We were supposed to see the D.C. Council start voting today around noon. We still haven't heard any updates. If or when that actually does happen, of course, we will bring it to you live right here on Fox 5. We will have team coverage coming up with Tom Fitzgerald and David Kaplan on Fox 5. At 3, 4, 5, and beyond. Tonight at 7:30, you can catch me back here on Fox Local and on Fox 5 DC's YouTube page with Do You Like It or Not? And I have a special in-studio guest tonight for all the fans of Love is Blind out there. Season 7 DC star Marissa George. She's also a pop culture legal commentator. So I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk to her about. We'll also find out, how she feels about the new season of Love is Blind, set in Denver. That's set to come out in just a few weeks. 3:30 this afternoon, Chad Ricardo, NFC Beast, breaking down all of the highlights from all the NFC East action with some sports reporters from Philly, New York, and Dallas. You can also catch that on demand on Fox Local. President Trump over in the United Kingdom. We'll hear much more about that visit, and it also streaming live, the latest updates streaming live on Fox 5 DC's YouTube page. We'll be back here again tomorrow, of course, with much more on all of the top stories of the day and more. For producer Emmy, I'm producer Chris. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow. The Take It 2 coming up next.